Hey everybody, it's Roxx here, just sitting in my teaching spot. It's 100 million degrees right now, so that's why I have my shirt open. I'm sorry, Todd, but I might pass out, and not in the fun way. I know there's a bit of a lag in these videos, so I do apologize. I'm using the webcam on my laptop, and it's supposed to be a nice webcam, but there's a lag, and I don't know how to fix it. So. Anyway, now that we got that out of the way, let's get started on this cool lesson. The reason I'm doing this lesson is because my hope is that somebody out there, you might get inspired by changing the tuning on your guitar, or if you already do change the tuning on your guitar a lot, you might be inspired to take this ideas and these examples and expand on it and do something really cool. And I'm just curious to see what you can come up with, and what your approach would be to this. So I was sitting around tonight going, like, I really want to play something in the key of E major, because I like the sound of E major. It's a very, very cool, very unique to me scale. And so there's a tuning that a lot of people use called open E tuning, and a lot of slide guitar players use it, like Derek Trucks and Dwayne Allman and stuff. And that involves tuning up a couple of the strings that you would normally be in regular tuning. You tune them up a little bit higher. And I've always been paranoid about that, because I always seem to break a string when I do that. And I don't know if it might be my nervous energy, you know, where I'm going, oh crap, I'm going to break a string. But I'm usually worried about that. So I came up with this cool tuning where I was thinking E major, and then changed some of the strings to highlight some of the tones that I like in the key of E major. So on its own, it doesn't sound like, you know, something that's going to change your life or make people go, wow, that's beautiful. But the idea is we'll go through, you know, what I'm doing, and we'll do some cool examples and cool ideas, and then hopefully we'll manipulate this so that, you know, it sounds nice. Because right now there's a lot of competing tones and colors and things, and you know, so it's not really pleasant. Neither is it altogether bad, but it's different. So here's the tuning that I came up with. I'm thinking of everything in terms of the key of E major, even though I've tuned my guitar strings down a half step. So please don't flame me in the comments saying, you know, he's actually in E flat, because I know that, and now you know that, and it's just easier to think of everything in terms of, you know, playing in the key of E. So anyway, here's the tuning. Low string is tuned to E flat. The fifth string is tuned to B flat or A sharp, depending on what your tuner says. The next string is tuned to C. The third string is tuned to G. The second string is tuned up to C. And the last string, the high string, is tuned up to E flat. Now the reason why I tuned my strings down a half step was because if I was doing this tuning in, you know, where everything was starting in E, I would have to tune my second string all the way up to C sharp, and I would guarantee I would break a string, and then I would probably lose an eye and have to wear an eye patch, and I'd be that guy on the infomercial selling you some crappy Korean guitar, and I'd be named Esteban. And the world does not need more of that. So anyway, that's the tuning. So E flat, A flat, C, G, C, E flat. So anyway, so now we're approaching this in kind of as it being in the key of E major. So first thing I want you to notice is the second string and the fourth string are both C's. So the fourth string is a low C, and the second string is a high C. So what you can do is you can play these strings together, and they sound nice. Now if we go to the third fret, we have E. These notes are E. Now if we go up the scale, if we go to the fifth fret, we have F sharp. On the seventh fret, we've got G sharp. On the eighth fret, we've got A. 10th fret, we've got B. 12th fret, C sharp. 14th fret is D sharp. And then the 15th fret is E. Now if I add a low E bass note to that, we've got this. And I hope this isn't distorting too much, because the microphone on here is very sensitive. It cried during Twilight. Anyone? Anyway, yeah, so that's one option. You can do that. And the idea is to come up with some sort of a melody, so you know. You can probably do something way better than that, or different. I, just started playing around with this tuning myself, so the sky's the limit. You can also take those same notes, that same concept, and strum all the strings. So you can be like. So, and then again, come up with a melody. The next thing that's really cool to do is on the high strings. Sometimes I like to do this when I'm in an open tuning, or even just a regular tuning. Is we're going to do a hammer-on. We're going to play up the notes of the scale. So we're going to start. We're going to go 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. So it's just the major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and then backwards. Now what I like to do is a hammer on, and I go 0, 2, 4, and then I tap on the 7, and then I go back down. So I go 0, 2, 4, 7, 4, 2, 0. And if you can grab that low E string while you're doing it, it sounds really cool. Then you go 0, 4, 5 as a hammer on and tap on the 9th fret. And then you go 0, 5, 7 and tap on the 12. Anyway, it sounds kind of cool. Another thing I got one time was, there was a guy named Roxx who taught in this magazine called Guitar Techniques from London, which is really cool. And he passed away a year or two ago, but he did these amazing acoustic guitar lessons. And he was teaching a song called a Cascaro from this guy named Thomas Lieb. And it's a beautiful song, so you should definitely check it out. But Thomas Lieb had this thing where he'd be in an open tuning, and he would do hammer-ons on the low string, like for instance, and notes of the scale, right? So if I go 0, 2 and I do hammer-on, and then I hit the high string with my finger, open, so I go, and then you take your finger where you normally play a harmonic, and you just bring it down, bam, right above the fret. So you get that kind of a sound. I'm not the greatest at this technique, so again, this is merely a platform for you to step on and go somewhere. So yeah, so you go like that. Then you could go to the 4th fret and then do your hammer on the 4th fret, and then do your harmonics on the 7th fret. Then you could go to the 5th fret and do your harmonics on the 12th fret. Now if you listen to Andy McKee, the guy that does the drifting thing where it's like, I'm not good at that style at all, but like I said, some of you might be amazing at that, so you can totally rock this. You can do that. You could bar on the low string, get your hands tapping, do some tapping there, and then do the harmonics. Whatever. So another option. Another thing you can do is kind of like these kind of like bar chords with open strings in them. So I like to think of these chords as like B chords or A chords, even though technically if you were to look at the name, they might be, they might have this really long name like B add something, another thing in brackets, The idea is just to think of them, and always use your ears, right? Your ears are the thing that's going to say, I like that sound, or ugh, I don't like that sound. So if we go to the 7th fret, on the low string I'm going to go 7, 7, 7. So you got that, kind of like doing a bar chord if you were in drop D. So 7, 7, 7, and then your pinky on the 3rd string hits the 10th fret. Now I can take my pinky off and I can put a finger on that 3rd string on the 8th fret. If you like that sound, you can try that out. I like the one with the pinky. Now, So I think of this as a B chord because our first note, this bass note, is B. Now you can slide the shape over to the 5th fret, so you're going 5, 5, 5, and then 8. And you get kind of an A chord. Right? And if you want something that sounds a little bit more haunting or slightly dissonant, you can go 5, 5, 5, and then 7. And if you kind of strum back here, that's a kind of a Steve Vai thing. Sounds really cool. So I think of that as like an A chord, right? If you go to the 4th fret, we're starting with a G sharp note. And when you go 4, 4, 2, you get this neat kind of, you can think of it as a G sharp minor. Even though, again, technically some of these chords might be named a little different. Tomato, tomato, right? The idea is just, if it sounds cool, we'll do it. And these sound cool to me. They might not sound cool to you, okay? But another thing you can do is on the low strings is you go to the 2nd fret. So you go 2, 2, 2. And then on that 4th string, you can add the 3rd fret and the 5th fret. One last thing I always thought that sounded kind of cool is if you use the 4th string as your bass note, you can play around with notes on the 2nd string, doing a hammer-on pull-out thing. So you go 2, 3, 2, 0. And then on the 3rd string, you go 3rd fret, 1st fret, 0. So you have. So anyway, the idea is you can play around, and all I'm doing is just playing, notes of the major scale in just different positions, and also trying things that are a little bit, dissonant, maybe stuff that doesn't actually belong to that key. But anyway, I've probably rambled enough. It's a different tuning. I don't know that I would use it all the time or anything like that, but sometimes it's good just to kind of, if you're sitting around, think of things, or just use your ears and go, what happens if I do this, and then just play around with it and see what you can come up with. One of the tricks that I try to work on is not to sound drony, so everything is just has that note going through it. Because after a while it just kind of gets a bit monotonous. It's nice for building up tension in a song, right? Because as you're playing stuff that moves and you have that static, constant bass line, it's going to give some nice, nice anxiety and tension, and then when you resolve it to something, it sounds, wow, that was really cool. But if your whole song is just drone, 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 to me that gets a bit monotonous, and that's what makes the masters of the acoustic guitar, like Don Ross and Andy McKee and all these other guys and Alex DeGrassi, is they can play a song and it doesn't sound so drony, and what that is they've probably just spent a lot of time woodshedding in this open tuning. So anyway, that's it for me. I've rambled far too long. Just curious what we can come up with. And if it helps, just grab a sheet of paper, use this tuning, and then write out all the scale notes on each string. Starting with the open string, and then just go up the scale. And then just see what you can come up with. Anyway, thanks so much for checking this out. Hopefully it made sense, and I'll talk to you guys later. I plan to start posting just a lot more cool guitar stuff. It's going to be completely random. If I could stress anything, learn your scales if you don't know it. I've got a really cool lesson on roxcenter.com on scales and keys and what all that stuff means. Anyway, have a good night. Cheers.